Hello race fans, Keith Collentine here. Let's go through the field for the 2019 Spanish Grand Prix. Starting with the two drivers who didn't see the checkered flag. Lando Norris, he said he could have been in Q3, but he made a small mistake on his best lap in Q2. The race went wrong pretty early on for him. He ran wide at turn 3, lost about half a dozen places, was trying to battle his way through the field when he caught Lance Stroll. He tried to go around the outside at turn 1, but it didn't work. Stroll turned in and the pair collided and went out. It was a rough weekend for Lance Stroll. He crashed in first practice, damaging the new parts on his Racing Point. These were fully replaced in time for qualifying, but he went out in Q1 once again. That is 5 out of 5 for him. And in the race, of course, had that collision with Lando Norris. Among the finishers, once again at the back, it was the Williams pair, and Robert Kubica was over a second slower than George Russell in qualifying. He started ahead of him because his teammate had a penalty, but was busy making an engine setting change on the start-finish straight when his teammate came by. Russell made his life unnecessarily difficult with a crash in final practice, but his car was repaired in time for him to qualify strongly, within half a second actually of Antonio Giovinazzi. A bit of a more encouraging performance for Williams in that respect, but they weren't on par with the other teams in the race, and Russell came in 17th. Antonio Giovinazzi wasn't happy with his brakes in qualifying. He had a lock-up at turn 10. His race was compromised by a gearbox change penalty, which left him 18th on the grid, and he finished with just the two Williamses behind him. It wasn't a great race for Racing Point. They really came down with a bump after a great weekend in Baku. Sergio Perez scraped into Q2, but only qualified 15th. He was passed by Kimi Raikkonen at the restart and finished in 15th place as well. As for Kimi Raikkonen, he tried a range of different setup options trying to get some more speed out of the Alfa Romeo. Didn't think he could qualify much higher than he did. In the race, he went off at turn 4 at the start, made a small recovery and got by Perez to finish in 14th place. Nico Hülkenberg really compromised his weekend when he went off in Q1 and crashed. And making matters worse, the team switched him to a different specification of front wing and cheekily didn't disclose it to the stewards. They were caught out and he had to start from the pit lane. He managed to make it up to 13th place at the end, which was a decent effort. He finished just behind his teammate, and Daniel Ricciardo wasn't very pleased with how his race went. Having seen Hülkenberg go out in Q1, he scraped into Q3 by 0.03 of a second, and his race seemed to be going well when he put a really good pass on Carlos Sainz Jr. However, his team put him on the hard compound tyres in his pit stop. That turned out to be a mistake. He lost a bit of ground during the safety car as well and ended up finishing outside the points. Ricciardo incidentally said that the team should have swapped the order of their drivers before the restart because Hülkenberg was on older tyres and was in his way. Alexander Albon failed to score. He said he made too many mistakes on his qualifying lap, and he also lost time when he had to queue up behind Daniel Kvyat in the pit lane. Haas were much more competitive in Spain. Romain Grosjean was only 0.2 of a second off Pierre Gasly in qualifying. In the race, he was on course for 7th place before the safety car came out. However, at the restart, Magnussen dived down the inside of him. Grosjean was forced to take to the runoff area. He soon became pretty well acquainted with the line back onto the circuit as he first tried and failed to get back past Magnussen. Sainz barged his way past and Daniel Kvyat overtook him as well. That left Grosjean a disappointed 10th. Kvyat had a really strong weekend. He said his Q2 lap was one of the best he's ever done. It got him into Q3, and he reckoned 7th place was possible in the race, but during that pit stop, Toro Rosso didn't have his tyres ready for him in time, and that cost him some crucial places. Nonetheless, he made some great passes on Kimi Raikkonen and Kevin Magnussen during the race and was classified in 9th. Carlos Sainz Jr. compromised his qualifying effort. He made a bit of a mistake at turn 5 and then a further mistake later on in the lap. His race was considerably better. Despite losing out to Daniel Ricciardo early on, he fought back and was able to pass Romain Grosjean for 8th position. Kevin Magnussen clinched 7th place, partly due to some rather brusque tactics with his teammates. There was a bit of an exchange of opinions at Haas after the race, but Magnussen was the one who came out on top with 7th place. Pierre Gasly continues to improve steadily in the Red Bull. He was 0.3 of a second off Max Verstappen in qualifying, but not really in the fight with the rest of the top 3 teams in the race itself. However, he did get some rubber stuck in the front wing of his Red Bull, which compromised his handling. Charles Leclerc qualified in 5th. He was beaten to 4th place by Max Verstappen. He had run wide in Q2 and lost a bit of bodywork off his car. In the race, he got close to the back of Vettel early on. His teammate was told to allow him through, which he did. Leclerc went on to a one-stop strategy, switching to the hard tyres. That might have paid off and delivered 3rd place had the safety car not come out, but of course it did. He had to pit again, and it dropped him into 5th position. Sebastian Vettel took 4th position. He locked up at turn 1 as he tried to take the fight to the Mercedes at the start, and that moment unfortunately really ruined his first stint. He had a big flat spot on his tyre and had to let Leclerc through. He was much quicker once he switched onto the medium tyres and was committed to what looked like being a 2-stop strategy. That was what it turned out to be. Leclerc had to let him through, but he probably wouldn't have been able to get 4th place if it hadn't been for that safety car period. Max Verstappen, once again, seriously impressive in the Red Bull, splitting the Ferraris during qualifying and was as opportunistic as ever at the start. Leclerc got ahead of him away from the line with that superior Ferrari straight line power, but coming out of turn 2, Verstappen got the pair of the Ferrari drivers and was consistently quick on that aggressive Red Bull 2-stop strategy, saving a fresh set of soft tyres for his second stint to deliver a really excellent podium finish. But once again, what can anybody do about the Mercedes duo, and what can Valtteri Bottas do about Lewis Hamilton? Well, he did outqualify him quite emphatically to the tune of 0.6 of a second. However, at the start, a bit of a clutch problem meant he was slow getting away, and that frankly decided the outcome of the race. How did Hamilton go from being so far away in qualifying to so far ahead in the race? Well, it's partly down to the circumstances of qualifying. He aborted his last run in Q2 early. That meant he began Q3 with an undercharged battery. His first lap was quite scruffy as well, so it wasn't really quick enough. And then the track conditions deteriorated in the second part of Q3, and he ended up well off Bottas's pace. But that didn't matter once he made a superior start, claimed the lead, and then won as he pleased, pulling around 10 seconds clear of Bottas at one point before the safety car came out. That puts Lewis Hamilton back in the lead of the Drivers' Championship, and it's looking like an all-Mercedes battle for this year's title. Thanks very much for watching. For more Formula 1 news and analysis, make sure you're following at racefans.net, find us on Twitter and on Facebook. But before you do that, make sure you click subscribe at the top right so you don't miss our next new video on YouTube.